Well, let's get started. I am going to run the presentation and just introduce myself. Here we go. And here we go. So can everybody see me, like my face and stuff while you have this, or you can't see me? I don't even know, because I'm usually on the other side of things.
Yeah.
But you can see me. Everybody can see me,
We
like my
can.
face and stuff. Yeah, you can?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see you.
I don't know. It's just I can see only my monitor. I can't see everybody. It's because I have a new setup, so I can't see faces anymore. I feel more comfortable not looking anymore. Well, my name is Marco Berrocal. I am also out of Costa Rica, and I'm a WordPress developer. I have developed custom themes and plugins for, I can't believe it's been 10, 11 years already. I love the ecosystem that is WordPress. I think it's an awesome community-driven initiative, and that's part of the reasons why I think it's so successful. And well, I also work in the partner relations here at GreenGeeks, and given the fact that we are in interesting times, so to speak, from a historical point of view, well, we kind of adjusted to, giving webinars here for our customers and people who are not our customers. So I truly enjoy this. And speaking about WordPress, I usually speak at conferences that are related to WordPress as well. So I hope you, all of you, have fun today and learn something new. There will be only one thing that I really would like you to do after this webinar is over. But if you're going to do more than one, well, I'll be really happy. So we are going to talk today about security. It's a big issue. Usually when I go to conferences, it's a topic, all right? People talk about, how to keep your website safe. I've been hacked, the bad guys are out there and whatnot. So without further ado, here we go. So what are we going to learn? First of all, I'm going to tell you an inevitable truth. That is that the bad guys are out there. So there's a lot of bad people, both in the physical world and in the online world. So there are people out there who basically want to steal your information. They want to hack your site. They want to cause vandalism. They want to give you a troubled time. And, should they find some doors open or available, if it's in the wrong hands, you might fall prey to that. And trust me, it's not a pleasant time when that happens, especially if if you're like a developer or you're a web designer or you're an agency and you are charging your customers for the site that you built and for the hosting and all that stuff. It can be troubled times, okay? So usually people ask this a lot, how important is security and is WordPress secure? I would say security is really important because in the end, I can't foresee what type of business you run, but you have to take into consideration if you have customer data in your WordPress installation, be this for a WooCommerce platform, or if you have a membership site, or anything that has customer information is sensitive data that might get compromised and might get stolen and subsequently sold everywhere. And that's more or less why the spamming and other stuff exists. But it's important. Security is important. It's important to safeguard the identity of your customers. Like this is something that here at GreenGeeks, it's really important to us because we have a lot of customers as well. So security is like a pivotal cornerstone of our business. And is WordPress secure? I mean, that question is, it's not so easy to answer because people seem to think that it isn't because a lot of WordPress sites get hacked. And I would say that because the platform is so popular, it kind of gets a bias, like a negative bias around it, more or less like when Microsoft was the dominant force in the 90s and 2000. Well, they still are, but they usually get a lot of flack for being deficient platform and unsafe operating system. But it's not so much that it isn't safe. It's just the fact that it's so many people on it that it makes it a lucrative market for the bad guys to to look into it in ways to hack and steal your information. And I think that's more or less what happens with WordPress, because a third of the web is using the platform. So to quote a friend of mine who works in IT, I mean, I could have all the safety and security features implemented. Like, let's say I have a car and I have all these alarms and all these fancy stuff and all this and this and that. And I may feel that my car is secure, but let's say tomorrow they invent this helicopter with this giant magnet, and it just, like, I don't know if I've seen it in cartoons or something, like, and then the car gets like magnetized like this, and they just take away your car. And I mean, what security feature do you have against that? So it's more like a cat and mouse game. And as the web evolves, as new features are added, as WordPress matures more and more, of course, there are going to be some stuff that might be vulnerable, which is part of the reason why we're going to discuss some of the things in order to mitigate that. And I would say that the important thing, the mindset that you need to, or the takeaway that you need to have is we have a balance, and it goes like this. It's going to be functionality on the one hand, and it's going to be security on the other. So the more secure your site is going to be, the less functional it's going to become. It's going to be harder to use. You're going to have more steps in order to log in order to view stuff. It's more work to have it more secure. But on the flip side, if you have a very functional site, it's going to be less secure. So yeah, that's more or less the takeaway. That's by itself, if used correctly, I mean, WordPress is pretty secure. But again, there are a few tweaks and stuff that we can do in order to make it even more secure. All right, so what are we going to need today, aside from your GreenGeeks account? I'm sorry, I usually put that as a way of advertising, but you don't really need one. You just basically need a WordPress site. It can be running on any hosting environment, but we are going to talk about hosting. So any WordPress site will do. Any theme and plugins are going to be okay. I mean, the ones that you have, they're going to be fine. You may need to access your site using FTP, which is a special protocol to browse where your website currently resides, or you can use the cPanel file manager to do that. I'm going to go with that route, with the cPanel route, because I just think it's more in tune with what we have here at GreenGeeks. We are going to need some coding and server stuff. I mean, we're going to paste snippets, and I'm going to explain to you what those snippets do. But and you're going to have the complete confidence that it's going to work. Don't worry. And we're going to need a strategy. I mean, like always, we're going to define what plugins are we going to use, what we're going to need, what are we going to actually do, and why. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing. We're going to talk about our hosting. I mean, we don't want to toot our horn, but okay, we are a hosting company. But it's important from a security perspective that you choose a good hosting environment. And why do I say this? I say this because not all hosting companies are created equal. Like, for example, I have sites, I've worked with different hostings in the past, and you want to make sure that the hosting company that you choose is pretty big on security. They are, constantly up to date with what's going on, and that they follow best practices in order to not compromise your site. I say this because, at a competitor, which I'm not going to name, I was using a pretty old version of PHP, and I can still use it, and they are not really forcing me to do so. So, but that's out of the subject. So basically what you're looking for in a company that does hosting, first of all, are they monitoring your stuff? And by monitoring, I mean, are they constantly scanning for any malicious code that might have been injected to your website? Do they notify you about it? And do they take measures in order to mitigate the damage? And I'll tell you a story, because I also have our account here, GreenGeeks. I have some sites set up with it as a customer. I actually do pay. And, all of a sudden they emailed me mean, they didn't know I worked at GreenGeeks, and they emailed me and they told me, listen, you may have been compromised. We're going to take this stuff offline for a while now. Make sure you clean your site and make sure you follow the best practices as to what to do. And I thought it was pretty good because I wasn't expecting, of course, to be hacked, and they follow up on it. And we exchanged emails back and forth. Again, they didn't know I was a customer. And I cleaned my stuff up. I notified them and told them, listen, I'm good to go. They took a look and they gave me the green flag and put my stuff back up. So you are definitely, you need to ask the company what their policy is, what their procedure is going to be when it comes to security. Also, if they are prepared against DDoS attacks, which are pretty much brute force attacks when it comes to people trying to access your website. So let's say I'm a bad guy and Anna is my target here, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to knock Anna's site by sending a gazillion visitors to my website so I can bring her website to a crawl. Sorry, I got scared there. Website to a crawl. And what is their policy in regards to that? Do they have any policies? More or less, you need to ask those questions before you start to pick what your hosting provider is going to be. Of course, the servers and hardware. I mean, do they have state-of-the-art hardware? What is their hardware? What is their software? What software does it run on? How often do they patch it? And how do they handle upgrades when it comes to PHP versions and stuff of that nature? And it's information that you need to know. And last but not least, do they back stuff up for you? Like, for example, here at GreenGeeks, we use cPanel, and in cPanel, you can automate your backups. It's going to do a complete cPanel backup of your stuff, and that's pretty good because it's good and bad because it's good because it does the backup, but it's so good because you may need to move that off-site. I don't know if it's automated or not. I can't tell. But obviously, you need a company that can do that for you, that it can back up your database, back up your emails, back up your WordPress site, and all of that stuff. Which leads me to my following slide. And this is like the most important slide of them all. And this is what I definitely want you to do. You have to back up. I mean, seriously, you got to do that. You got to do that. And what do we look for when it comes to backup? I would say, first of all, it has to be something that's simple to use, simple in a way that I don't need to be constantly following up on it, tweaking stuff, going into that, and doing manual things. And that's why I gave you at the beginning of this presentation the balance of functionality and security, because if the solution is cumbersome and you need to go in there once a week and do manual work, and you start multiplying that by a couple of sites, you're going to be spending a lot of time on security. And unless you want to charge your customers for that, or I don't know what your setup is going to be, you're going to start chipping away, precious time doing stuff. So you need a solution that's going to be simple for you, that's going to work for you, that you can actually, set it up and not forget about it, but you can, it's taken care of, and you can check on periodically to make sure what it's done. The second thing I recommend you to look is the options when it comes to backup. With WordPress, you can back pretty much everything. When I mean everything, it's everything from your media files to your database to your themes, of course, plugins, all of that stuff. So do you want to do that or not? I mean, again, this comes in different flavors. Like, for example, I am a developer, and I might not be interested in the code, like in the theme itself, because I use GitHub, which, by the way, it's like a advertising for the next webinar. So I use Git, and that is like my local copy. It's somewhere else. So if something happens with my theme, I know I have a backup version both on my computers and on GitHub, but you may not have that option. So you definitely want to back your theme up. So I would need, for example, me as a developer, I would need to just back up the database and probably the media files, and so you gotta measure what is it that you need. By this, and this is important because the more you back up, like the bigger your backup is going to be. And which leads me to my third point is it's going to be free or paid. So, in previous webinars, I've said, yeah, the plugins are free for the most part, but they give you some limitations on the free version when it comes to using them because, of course, they want to make money. So some of them might have a limit as to how much space can you back up. And before you know it, your backups are getting pretty big, and it's not going to be sufficient. Others, like for example, and we go back to the simple solution, others allow you let's say you want to use Dropbox or Google Plus, no, not Google Plus, Google Drive to back up and do it. So with that, I always recommend first also to do it offsite. And what do I mean by offsite? I mean, you don't put your eggs in the same basket, and that is true for backups. And a good analogy I usually give is you don't put your backup keys inside your car, so you're not going to back up your site within your site, because you have to think about the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is that somebody might have stolen your credentials, and they are going to go into your WordPress site, and they're going to look at your stuff, and they're going to see a backup, and they're just going to delete it, and before you know it, you're out of a backup as well. So I usually make sure, and that's why I said about the GitHub thing, I have the code, I have the stuff that I really, really need offsite. So I have a multiple copies offsite just to make sure that, whenever I use it, I need it, I'm going to need it, I have a lifeline to it, and that is not within my sites. So manage your options. And now we are going to go a little bit into the WordPress side of things. So we have, as usual, we have a WordPress installation here. This is my fantastic WordPress site that I've been using. To manage backup options, all you got to do is go to plugins and add new and choose your options. Now, I'm going to mention the ones that I use, but if someone has a better solution, of course, I'm all open to it. This is also part of the reasons why I love these webinars so much, is because people give a lot of recommendations that perhaps one doesn't know. So usually you go to back, you just type in backup and see what comes up. As you can tell, Updraft Plus is like the first option that came. That is the option that I use the most, I would say. And what I like about it is the fact that I can do backup, as you can see, as I'm highlighting here. I can do it to Dropbox, S3, Google Drive, or anything that I'm interested in. I think they have a limit as to the size of the backup. So for smaller sites, you can definitely use that. Jetpack offers this as well. I've never used Jetpack, so I can't really say. But as always, check the amount of installations that are available, what the community thinks of it, how long ago was it updated, and if it's compatible with my current WordPress version or not. Like I said, I usually use this, or I use this one, which is called All-in-One WP Migration. I kind of use this because sometimes I'm working with a client, and I just need to make sure that I have an exact copy as is with all the settings exactly as I need it. So the downside is that I am going to need this once, because I'm pretty much extracting his site, which is hosted somewhere, and I'm importing it into my local setup. So I just do this export to a file thing, which is going to generate a custom backup file. The downside of that is that I have to do this manually. And like I said, I only do it once, and I kind of set it and forget it because I back up using something else. But you may like this. I mean, it's a really, really cool tool because it does an exact copy of your website with all the settings, all the content, all your plugins, absolutely everything. So it's really, really cool. But the problem comes when you want to use something, like I said, offsite. If you want to use Dropbox, for example, it's going to ask you like, hey, why don't you pay us some money? And here's where it gets a little, it gets a little not bad, but I mean, gets a little like you need to take out your wallet, and you're like, oh, okay, obviously people want to use free as much as possible, but this is like the downside of that. So they have a pro version that can handle it for $99. So part of the reasons why I use Updraft is because it allows me to back up stuff up to a certain point. I think if we go all the way down, I should have that over here. So if you go to settings, it's going to open and it's going to say, when was the last time you made a backup? I made a backup yesterday since I was doing a test run, and I have the backups over here. Again, I did a local backup, which is not what I should do. But if you go to settings, I think if you go to settings over here, you can set your files backup schedule, which is also a cool feature that I like, because I don't think all-in-one WP migration can do that. They don't have an automated backup solution, and this is why I said about simplicity to use, because I don't want to be doing manual backups every time. I want to set that to automatic, and I want to set that to have it done that is offsite. So again, you can tweak with these options over here. For busy sites, again, the busier you are, the more frequent it is that you need to do. And I think the cool thing about, we'll get to there in a bit, but again, are we going to do the files, and are we going to do database? And how many scheduled backups are we going to retain? So this basically means that how many backups am I going to keep before I delete the oldest one? So in this case, we have 2. I would say 2 or 3 is good, and I'll tell you why. Usually you want to have, sometimes it can happen. Sometimes your backup might be corrupt, or you might download it and it's not going to work, and you're going to be, okay, my backup didn't work. My site got compromised, and now you are kind of out of options, So it's always good to have a number that that it's going to give you a few tries. Obviously, the higher this number is, the more space that you're going to need, which is also the reason why I use something like Dropbox or what you would call it, Amazon S3 or Google Drive. Google Drive comes with I think it's 15 gigabytes of free space. For those of you who use Office, Mike, and it's a legal Office. I mean, I buy an Office subscription. I pay I think it's like $100 a year. So it comes with 1 terabyte of free space. So I would say that Microsoft Office is a good candidate for me to drop my backups there. So with Dropbox, I don't pay the premium fee. But again, this allows me to set that up, and I just click on it, and it's going to open like the options. What do I want to include? So again, do I want the themes? Do I want the uploads? Do I want the plugins and all that stuff? I mean, again, you gotta measure that up. I mean, if you have a lot of plugins and they weigh a lot, it's going to take a lot of space. And my line of thinking is more or less, okay, the plugins I can definitely download them myself, so I'm just going to leave that blank. But themes, absolutely not, because I'm a developer and I want to keep my code. And the uploads, I definitely want to keep, because those are my files, So in here, you just tweak the options, and in the end, you're going to have to. It's going to ask you to connect with your Microsoft account, and here exactly. Exactly. So you get it as an add-on, you do it, and you set it and forget it, and that's done. That's part of the cool features that it has. On the advanced tools, it's going to tell you more or less, what your site information is going to be, and it has all, like I told you before, it has a premium extension, and I think the premium extension, what it does is it does a differential backup. What do I mean by differential backup? Backup differential is as the name implies. So let's say I have this backup, it's this big, like in size-wise, and I used the site, I uploaded some pictures and I did that, and like the difference between this and this, it's like this. So instead of doing the whole thing, it's going to add just this differential to this. So I think Apple Time Machine does that. It does a differential backup. It's a good way to save space in order to not have all these complete backups. Again, I can't foresee how big your site's going to be. So if you use a differential backup, I mean, it's a good feature to have. So like I said, the incremental backups, it's differential backups. It comes with the Pro version, and so that takes care of backups. I would say, please, okay, here, like for example, here, non-WordPress files and databases, like the free version doesn't allow you to back up your database, which you know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So you look into it, you know, assess whether it's worth your time or not to pay for the pro version or the free version. But just note that premium version will give you more options, will give you more control. And you know, it's a catch-22. I mean, with this, I can just buy the pro version from a web designer or from an agency, and I just bill the clients a small portion of that so that it covers that cost when it comes to using my services. Okay, so going back to our slides over here. So again, please, I would like to reiterate, always back up. Make sure that you do back up and that you back up periodically. So now we're going to do stuff without plugins. It's important that we do some server tweaks in order to you know, mitigate the damage that or the exposure that we're going to have, and we can do this you know, without using plugins. My first rule of thumb would be to update as much as possible. By updating, I mean both WordPress, I mean plugins, and I mean your PHP version. It's important that you do that because, and I know, and again, I go back to my scale with functionality versus security thing. Sometimes there might be some language vulnerability with the PHP version. And also the WordPress itself might have a vulnerability that the community just doesn't know when it came to deploying. So when they patch that stuff up, it's to fix it. So make sure you do update. I know this is a hot issue. It's a controversial issue, especially if you are using a third-party theme that might not behave well after you upgrade your version, which is also another reason why it's really important to do it locally before you decide to move on to production. But that's a whole different subject. So, but my takeaway here is to update as much as possible. Recently, WordPress came with this new version. Let's leave over here. WordPress came with this new version called 5.5, which is this version over here. And they have a really, really cool feature, which I absolutely like, which is the auto updates. It's this button over here. It's this option over here. You can enable or disable that on a plugin by plugin basis. So what this does is basically as it implies. So if I have this enabled, it's going to automatically update my plugins for me. There were plugins that did that, but if WordPress Core can do that for you now, I think it's way better to use Core. Some plugins might not offer this solution. Like, for example, I don't have it updated here, but I can just do it like that. And before you know it, it's going to update itself automatically. So it's a really cool feature. And as you can tell, well, I kind of upgraded yesterday. So I made sure that my WordPress version is up to date. Like I said, you got to balance that between, you know, if it's going to break your site or not. So this is another reason why it's really, really important for you to have a different environment, a local environment, or a remote environment somewhere else where you can more or less replicate what's going to happen. Okay. So to update your PHP version, I got stuck yesterday here, so I had to ask the gurus of cPanel. It's just that sometimes you see so many cPanels and you kind of forget. To look at your cPanel to PHP version, you got to go all the way down to software, and you can actually select your PHP version over here. And this is going to open what PHP version you have. Here at GreenGeeks, we usually we're going to be let's be honest, okay? At GreenGeeks, we kind of give you some freedom to choose your version, but also be warned though that it comes with a risk. I mean, these versions are a little old, but you can, you know, you can upgrade and you can use the version that is the most recent to you. Just be careful about this though, because again, what am I using here? I don't even know what I'm using. I was using, yeah, I'm using that. So if I want to update to 7.3, just make sure that you do that, that you have everything backed up and that everything is okay before you do, because, you know, something might break. Again, I can't foresee how your setup is going to be, how your WordPress theme is going to be. So make sure you make a small backup before you do. And if something goes wrong, you can roll back and you can start, you know, figuring out what went wrong. So in order to do that, you can go ahead and do that and go options over here. And yeah, you have some files here that those are basically like tweaks that you can do to your PHP options. You don't have per se in here. I haven't seen it. If you have a .ini file that you can configure, I haven't worked with the cPanel a lot, to be honest with you. But I mean, I've seen it on some cPanel installations where you can actually, configure your ini file or override it with custom settings. I'm getting here a little bit into the server language stuff. Like PHP is the language that WordPress uses to run. And there's options out there that you can actually override or not. And with GreenGeeks, it's this really cool whatchamacallit, options over here. In other cPanels, you kind of have to manually do it yourself and type it yourself. And in some options where, in some instances where you are actually the server administrator, like for example, on a dedicated server, you're going to have to do that yourself. So like I said, you can go and you do like that. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm scared that something might break. So I haven't really tested it, so I don't want to do it. But again, make sure that you actually upgrade periodically. We sometimes do notify customers that we are going to automatically roll them to a higher version. So make sure that you do check your email out. But my point here is, upgrade as much as you can, preferably, and make sure that it's a safe upgrade. Again, also one last thing before I move on to the next slide, about a word on themes and plugins. Okay, I've discussed this, I think, in my first webinar about plugins. Make sure that you use plugins, preferably that are in high use within the community. Sometimes you get plugins off of different sites and they are not in the repository. So you got to be really, really careful about that, because that might constitute as a back way for attackers to get in, or it might not be properly patched because it's really code that you haven't inspected and that you don't know what it contains. It's really a black box, and you're taking a leap of faith in trusting, or not trusting, I would say you take a leap of faith in knowing that the team behind that plugin follow best practices, and they are humans. They might have done a mistake, they might have had an oversight. So, and sometimes these things happen. I mean, you install this plugin and it became obsolete and it hasn't been updated in years, and as time goes by, PHP versions change, and again, you might be having a vulnerability here and there. So I would definitely, if you want to install a plugin, make sure you do some research to it. And the same goes for themes also. Themes is code that you don't know what it contains. So, read a little bit about what people think about it. Google the theme, Google the author, make sure it's someone that you can actually refer to, because sometimes, and I've seen it also with free themes, that what it does is, yeah, your site works, yeah, your site displays, but it contains snippets of codes that are very suspicious, and you don't know how it got there, and you don't know how to remove it. And next thing you know, you have something that might be compromising your site. So with themes, I would definitely recommend paying a little bit of money, because this way you guarantee that the developer is continuing supporting it, and that he's, of course, ethical about it. I mean, if there's money involved, chances are that he has to be ethical. Otherwise, his business is going to go completely down, because people are not going to trust the guy. They're going to rip him apart. They're going to say, listen, you're a scammer. And that guy is definitely not going to go into the business of developing themes anymore. So a word on that, it's just a safety thing. It's something that you need to think about when it comes to picking themes, okay? The next item I wanted to discuss is the encryption. So why is SSL important? I discussed this in my SEO webinar. Encryption basically means, it's a very old technique. I like history, so encryption has been around for ages, and it basically means that the message that I sent to the recipient, it's altered in a way that if somebody reads it, he can't understand what it is unless I have a key to decipher it. So we agree, both the sender and recipient what the key is. And when the recipient gets that message, he decrypts that information and he reads it. So that's more or less what SSL means. But in computer terms, it means that the information that I'm sending is encrypted towards anybody out there who might take their eyes or want to peek in or want to intercept that information, and they want to know what the contents of that is. So it's important that you encrypt it. You have to if you are taking payments because credit cards information gets sent over the web. But it's also important that you do when it comes to people's passwords, people's email addresses, and stuff of that nature, because you know you don't know if, for example, me as a customer, I use the same email address and the same password everywhere, and if my stuff gets compromised, these people have my information, and they might try to use that on different services on different sites, and it's just a matter of randomly. It's a matter of certainty before one of them works, and I might be compromised. So SSL is like an extra step that you can take to safeguard, the information that your customers are sending to you, and you are sending to them back and forth when it comes to communicating with them. So how do you install an SSL certificate? Well, at GreenGeeks, we have it. You need to go to your dashboards. This is not my paid account, by the way. This is the account that I get. But to do that, you go over here and you just add an SSL certificate and you select service. In this case, I'm not going to do it completely because I already have it. Oh, it expired. So let's go back in. So you add the SSL certificate, you select the service, and you select your username, your cPanel username, you select your domain, you continue, and then you have these options. You have the free option or you have the paid option. Now, what's the difference between free and paid? I got that question asked in a webinar. I kind of forgot, but the paid version allows you to have business information about your website on your certificate, and they have more options when it comes to what do you want to encrypt it, like if you can have a wildcard domain, subdomains, and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's more or less. Oh, and also another thing which the buy version provides for you. They kind of have like an insurance where if you're got attacked or there was a problem with it based on what the SSL didn't do, you can actually get compensated for it. So yeah, it's like a warranty that it's going to work. So if you pay, you can do that. And if it's not, if it's free, I mean, who are you going to argue against? So, but again, for the most part, the free version will work. Do the paid version if you typically high profile clients, clients that they don't want to take any risks, they don't want to take any chances, they'll pay for it. So but for most part, people like small businesses like me as a developer and stuff like that, yeah, you can use the free version. All right, so you select it and you're just going to follow the wizard, and after that, you confirm and create, and it should be done for you. Another thing that a certificate does, and it adds brownie points to you, is the fact that Google will interpret your website a little bit different, and they're going to give you a little bit. It's a ranking factor when it comes to your search engine results pages. I mean, no. In a previous webinar, I discussed SEO, but SSL is one of those things that Google looks into when it comes to ranking. So it doesn't hurt, and just make sure you do. One last thing I want to definitely recommend people on doing that. After, sometimes when we start the website, we may not use a certificate, and we may say, oh, I want to add the certificate now. But the problem is that you already have information out there. You already uploaded pictures, you already uploaded videos, you already uploaded files, and all your links are with the HTTP protocol. So you need to change that, of course. Like your WordPress installation only has HTTP stuff. Like if you go over here, all my stuff is HTTPS, but I've seen this in some instances where you install the certificate after your WordPress site is live. So you need to kind of change that, okay? There are multiple ways of doing that, but I definitely recommend using a plugin for that. And the plugin I usually use is this little guy over here. So I just type in SSL, and it's going to open this little guy. this little lock, really simple SSL. This plugin, what it does is it's going to scan, like it's going to grab your whole site and it's going to convert your links. It's going to convert your assets, your PDF files, JavaScript files, all your files, and it's going to make sure they are served in a secure manner. Okay. I recommend doing this because it takes all that work out of the way for you. And also because there's a cheap way of changing that. And I get a notice here. I wonder what that notice is. It's actually the SSL certificate. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. So, okay, I'm going to do that. And what I was saying is that I've seen it, and it has happened to me that I installed the certificate and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to, put my site secure. So I go over this option called General over here on the settings. And let's say this was like this and like this, right? So I go, okay, I have the certificate up and running. I'm good to go. I'm ready to make this change. And I do like this. And I hit the save changes. I get locked out. The page doesn't work. I can't access my WordPress admin. I can't access my site, and I'm locked out. So I've seen it happen. I don't know why exactly it happens. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. So I prefer not to take that risk anymore. So I prefer to install the plugin up front and just do it and forget about it, because the other way around would be to go directly into your database and changing this attribute manually, like changing it back to HTTP. That's going to work again. So that's more or less how you do. We'll show that at the end of the webinar in case you get locked out. Okay, so I wanted to mention that before we moved on to the next item. The next item is your usernames and password. So how many do we really need, and how much do they need to know? So this is the question that you need to ask yourself. How many users do you have? How many do you really need? And how much do they need to know? So first of all, how many do we need? Are you the type of business owner, or are you the type of person that has, when you go to users here, and you're going to have a plethora of users, you're going to have, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 users over here. It's people who used to work at your site, at your business, and they're no longer there. You haven't changed the passwords. You get the drift, so you don't know how if their accounts can be compromised, and it's best to remove them. It's best to just get rid of those usernames because they're not going to be in use anymore, or just keep it to very few users on your website with the least amount of privileges. And by that, I mean this over here, your role. What's the role going to be? It's going to be an administrator role. Administrator role, of course, you can do pretty much everything you want with it, but there's also certain roles that you can actually assign to users. WordPress comes out of the box with these roles, which are subscriber, contributor, author, editor, and administrator. It follows more or less like a newspaper process on which people can actually write stuff. An author can okay it, an editor can publish it, and sort of stuff like that. I'm not really, I haven't delved into deeply into the roles aspect of it, or as to what you can do and can't do with it. But like, for example, a subscriber could never, alter plugins and stuff of that nature. So if you need someone to just write on your site, just make sure you give him a small role, like give him the least amount of responsibility, not because you distrust that person, but because you don't know if that person's account's going to get compromised, and before you know it, someone's on your website and he can install plugins, he can do stuff with it, and he can go and say, oh, this guy has 5,000 customers. Why don't I go here to settings? To tools, and I'll just export this. I'll just export its users. I'll export everything. There are plugins that can do that, of course. And before you know it, your information has been compromised. Your stuff has been stolen, and you're going to have to give a lot of explanations if people find out. So again, make sure that you follow that, and also to guarantee that the users that you have follow best practices when it comes to both their usernames and their passwords. And by that, I mean, for example, over here, I have the admin content username, which cannot be changed. It could be changed, but that's a whole different subject. But you can't change it within here. But I've seen it in, and as a matter of fact, I saw it on this webinar. You can actually choose admin as your username. So that was more like a WordPress criticism that it had in the past, that the default user was called admin. And if you, for example, went to this website, and let me open a new window. So if you go to this website, I'm going to go over here. If you go over here, whoa, no, never mind. I know what I'm doing. So if you go over here, and it's very likely that when people try to attack your stuff, like if you look at this, there are two fields that someone needs to guess correctly in order to hack your stuff. The first one would be your username. Okay, so if you have admin, like pretty much everybody, a lot of people on the WordPress ecosystem do, you're just giving an attacker 50% of its of the riddle. Because if you go and do this, WordPress is going to tell you, okay, the password field's empty. If you fill this, okay, now they changed it that the username or password is incorrect. Back in the day, WordPress used to tell you this username doesn't exist. There's nobody by that username, okay? So if you go over here and you type in admin like this, and you do that, you see this. Like there is no account with that username or email addresses. So let's say there was, and I do like this, it's going to tell me, hey, your password was sent to the email address that you provided. So you, as an attacker, are going to say, oh, this guy's username is admin. So I already have half of the equation, and the other half is going to be determined by how strong this guy is going to be. The stronger it is, the more difficult it's going to be to guess it. So if you have that and you have this, I am really, really going to be really upset about with you. You know, make sure you don't do that, or this, or if this is why people get hacked, and this is why exactly why I said at the beginning of this webinar, is WordPress secure? Yeah, by itself, if used properly, it's going to be secure. But if you're doing this, you are really not helping WordPress at all. So it's important that you take these steps into consideration when it comes to creating users, both admin and passwords. Make sure that your passwords are strong. WordPress has that feature when you generate a new password and you look at this, this is really, really strong. I don't want to get into the cryptography thing here, but I don't know how many gazillion, googillion attempts that you need to do to guess this password. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of computing power. And some people might say, this is not worth my time. So again, make sure it's strong. And with the admin, since I develop, I usually do admin hyphen and just the name of the site. That's more or less my system. So don't go hacking my site. So that's my process. I go admin hyphen and then the name of the site in order to come up with an admin user, because yeah, you need it. Okay, so that's truly important to do that stuff. Like I said, this is stuff that we can do without plugins. This is stuff that we can do out of the box. We can configure it and we can make sure that our stuff it's pretty secure. All right, so next on, disable code editing. You can do this within the WordPress dashboard. Now, what is code editing? Code editing is a feature that WordPress has, which is a criticism that I have to the software. I removed it, but I'm going to show you how to put it back. We're going to put it back. Okay, so to put it back, I'm going to go back into my cPanel installation. And in this files manager, I have the files module over here. So I want to hit the files manager, and this is going to open, my structure, how my files are set up with my GreenGeeks account. So all websites are in the public HTML directory. And if you guys are following along, you'll see that my WordPress installation, it's this is the URL, and this is the subfolder I created it. So my WordPress is going to be in this content folder, right? So if I go over here, it's going to open this, and this should be a file called wp-config, which is not here because I moved it yesterday, but here it is. we're going to move this. Sorry. Okay, we're going to move it. We're going to move it. All right, and we're going to test to make sure that everything works. Everything works. So for most WordPress installations, the WP config file, this guy over here, is going to be in the root directory of where your WordPress installation is. Now, this is a really, really important file. This is a sensitive file. This is a file that you need to take a good look at, protect it at all costs, because as the name implies, it's how your WordPress site is configured. So if we open this guy over here, we're going to view it, okay? First of all, we're going to view, no, we're going to open it. We're going to edit it. If I edit it and I hit here, now I have the chance to edit this. Okay, I'm going to do something else while I'm at it. I'm going to leave the page and I am going to disable. Sorry, I'm doing this so quick because I noticed something was put there by deactivate. Okay, so we're going to deactivate this. Right. So now I'm going to close this, and is there a refresh button? I want to reload, and WP config file. Where are you? Yeah, here you go. See, it was just edited because I know a plugin did that. So I'm going to go again, and I'm going to edit it. So now it's bare bones. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is a bunch of, this is a PHP file. It's a programming language. So this is a bunch of stuff. Don't get intimidated. I know it's complicated, but don't worry about it. You learn by breaking. Okay. So as you can see, it has all the stuff that's sensitive. It has my database password, my username, everything that might knock my site down. But this little snippet over here, it's called it's called a constant. This is called a constant. I'm defining a constant, I'm sorry, and I'm putting that constant to true. What I'm basically saying is allow the file editing of my WordPress theme. So if I go over here and check that, and I refresh over here, and I go, and wait, I'm sorry. I'm gonna save that. And I'm going to refresh over here. As you can see, this option here called Theme Editor popped up, and this one called Plugin Editor. If we go over here and we click, even WordPress is going to give us a heads up. It didn't because I already did in the past, but basically right now I have complete access of my theme. I have complete access. I can do anything I want with the theme. I can alter it. I can change it. I can delete files. I can break my site right now if I don't know what I'm doing. So if we extrapolate this to what I said previously about your users, and you have this enabled, you might be in a lot of trouble because somebody might go in without you even knowing, might go in and inject some code in this file, like the functions, and this code is going to call something, it's going to do something without you even knowing. And let's say, I don't know, let's say you had a competitor that you guys really hate each other, and he is like, man, I'm going to sneak into that guy's site and I'm going to steal his customers. Well, I don't know if they do that in the States, but here it's pretty common. So, you know, you might go in there and you do that, and before you know it, someone's stealing your information. Someone's doing something with your site information. And the worst part is that you don't even know. You don't even know. And all that effort and all that work and all that stuff that you've been doing to generate, you know, whatchamacallit, you know, your customers, it's going down the drain because of a vulnerability on your site. I'm gonna save this, by the way, but that's for a future thing that we're going to do. So make sure that this is definitely not allowed. Now, again, I disabled the plugins, and some plugins can do that for you. So I'm just showing you the manual way in case you don't want to use the plugin route and you just want to do it, you know, without without the plugin. But the plugin can do that also. Okay. So this little thing over here, it's called a constant. If I comment this out, you see it changes to green. Whenever I take this away, that means this is actual code that's going to get executed. Okay, so I'm going to put it back. I'm going to put it back, and if I go back here and refresh, this is going to say, hey, you don't have permission. Okay, cool, which is really cool. This is exactly what we want. So if I click on the background thing and I go back, this thing should be, oh, why am I, man, if I go over here, this thing should now be gone. If you go to appearance, background, it's no longer there. So this is a really cool feature that WordPress allows you to do. And I've seen it in some customer sites where it's enabled, and it should just be disabled. It should. Definitely recommend disabling, unless it's just your site and you have it installed on your local computer, and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's something that you can do without a plugin as well. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is the htaccess file. An htaccess file it's a hypertext access file. It's a really, really special file, and it's a hidden file that is used to configure on Apache. Now, what is Apache? Apache is not the helicopter. Well, actually, it is the helicopter. But also, Apache is like the engine that WordPress uses, no, PHP uses to run. Okay, so a server is really a computer on steroids, but it also needs some software to allow connections to be made and to handle those connections and start, getting files and doing computer logical stuff with it. So Apache is really the engine that allows that. So an htaccess file, it's a special file that Apache uses that on every server request, on every connection that comes in, it inspects that file. It takes a look at that file and it reads the rules in a format that is, of course, understandable between both Apache and the file, and it determines, what rules to apply. So in a nutshell, that's what an htaccess file does. So WordPress uses it a lot. It uses it, and plugins use it. Everybody uses it. So this file is also a very delicate file. You can edit it using cPanel, or you can access it using your HTTP file, HTTP program of your choice. So if we go back here and let's close this guy out. If we reload over here, you're going to see this file over here. It's this file right there. So if we open that and let's edit it while we're at it, we're going to edit it. And again, it's going to be a bunch of computer blah, 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 blah things on. I don't want you to get scared. I mean, it's not gonna, yeah, it can break your site if you do it wrong. Like if you do something wrong, it can break your site, but at least you can access it with cPanel and you can revert stuff that you did. But don't worry, it's gonna be fine. So about that, what I wanted to say is you wanna make sure that you avoid people browsing, for example, with on WordPress, because WordPress also has it's not a vulnerability, but sometimes you can browse some directories and see what the content is, see what's inside, and that can be potentially dangerous. So with htaccess file, you can also look into that. There's a lot of tutorials about how to secure my website using htaccess files, and they're going to give you little snippets of code that you should ideally understand what it does before you put it in. Because again, you have to be really careful about, you're not going to put it incorrectly, and next thing you know, you're going to allow it out of everybody. Okay. So again, if you follow along here, you can see that I have this directive here, which is called, basically what I'm saying is that the WP config file, I deny access to it. So nobody can connect to it and see that file for themselves. So I'm not allowing anybody to write on that file unless I am accessing it through the appropriate channels. Okay, so it's really important that you secure that stuff in order to make your WordPress site more and more secure. So that leads me to my next thing. You want to disable PHP execution and file browsing. By that, I mean, you don't want people to view your stuff. Like, let's say I go over here, I have this disabled, so which is good. Like I go over here and I go like this. So basically I am trying to browse what the contents are. of my website. If I am to go over here and let's see if it works. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's remove this. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to put Marco. Okay. All right. So if I go back and let's see what happens if I do it. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. I love GreenGeeks. So we don't allow that for you. So GreenGeeks disallows that on a server level. It overrides that and it disallows me to do that. But not all hosting providers allow that. So you have to be really, really careful about that. Wow, that's really cool about GreenGeeks. So, you know, not all hosting companies do that for you. So GreenGeeks on a server level, this allows, you know, direct link browsing. What would have happened should they allow it is that I can view all of this, right? So I can view what's in here, you know, and I can say, oh, let's go to plugins now. Let me see what's in plugins. So before you know it, it can be information that can get compromised. So let's say a plugin over here, let's pick any. Like, let's say this contact form over here, they were dumping client information in there and you didn't know, and the plugin author forgot, or there was a setting there, there was a bug, and all of a sudden there's sensitive information out there. There's passwords, there's something there. Those are the scenarios that you really, really can't foresee. So my takeaway here is that you need to disallow people to browse your WordPress installation so that they can snoop around and see what's in there, okay? And you do that with htaccess rules. So unfortunately, I don't have that rule. I kind of forgot to set it, but we can do it in the questions and comments if we have time. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the WordPress version. So basically, I say that because we need to serve our stuff on a need to know basis. Like, do people who visit our website really, really need to know what WordPress version are we using? The answer is no. The other great question to ask from to WordPress is, why do you do that? Why are you telling people what WordPress version am I using? Because, and I say this because, okay, if we go back into our site over here, if I go back into our site over here and I right click and I say view page source, right? This basically means what was parsed by the browser. This is what the browser gave back to us and rendered into our screen. If we go to line 50, I think it was 55 over here, exactly. I'm going to zoom this a little bit. You can see a meta tag generated automatically. It says that it's WordPress 5.5.1. That is the exact version I'm running on WordPress. Now, you may say, what's the problem with this? Well, the problem with this is that if, let's say I haven't updated in a while, and I am using a WordPress version that has a known vulnerability, so the attacker will know this. You are just pretty much saying to the attacker, hey, listen, I'm using a WordPress version on which there's a vulnerability. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to. I don't know if you have that saying in the United States, but to your enemy, not even water. You don't give them anything. So you can't give that person the information as to what WordPress version you are using. So you kind of need to remove that. So in order to remove that, of course, there are plugins that do that, but plugins, it's the whole functionality versus security thing. Plugins add a little bit more to the flow, to what needs to be parsed. So it's just best to use a line of code that will do that for you. So how do we remove that? So again, we go back into our, let's go to this little guy here. So we go back into our WordPress installation, and where am I? I am in the WP, I'm in the plugin. So I'm gonna go up, I'm here in my root WordPress installation. The WP content is, as the folder directory implies, where all your content is going to reside, but not your database content, but your themes, your plugins, and your attachments, your uploads. So themes is where you want to go, right? So right now I am using, I think it's I'm using the 2020 theme. So if I go over here, I'm going to go with 2020, and I'm going to see a bunch of files. Again, don't get scared. These are called the theme files. The theme files. Okay. So by default, WordPress needs this file called the functions.php. As you can see, I edited it a couple of minutes ago, like 10 minutes ago. Okay. This is a special file that WordPress will always need and run. As a matter of fact, a theme will break if it doesn't have this file. So this file will always, absolutely all the time, run. Okay, so you're going to need this file, and you're going to edit it, and you're going to go, and it's going to open a gazillion stuff. This is PHP. It's just functions. It's just logic that the theme needs in order to run. So typically, I would just leave it there. I would not get intimidated by it. Just make sure you don't do something like this, and then you speak to your child over here, and then you go back, and you're like, okay, you know. So don't do that, because that might break your site. As a matter of fact, this thing is really cool because it's telling you there's an error. But let's go back, and that should go away. So in my workflow, when I started using WordPress, I always went at the bottom. Because that's how we start in life. We start at the bottom. So I went to the bottom of it, and I add my custom logic here. As you can see, I commented this out. If you followed a little bit closely, if you caught that, I edited this within the theme editor of my WordPress dashboard. So this little snippet over here is the actual snippet that I want to run to make sure that I remove the version. So in a nutshell, I'm running a filter. A filter is it's basically a hook that WordPress uses. Hooks are like special code that runs on whenever WordPress starts, and you can tap into it and you can modify that behavior. That's more or less WordPress philosophy as to how to modify files without modifying the core stuff that gets updated frequently. So in here, I'm adding this little snippet called filter, and I'm calling the name of the filter, which is in this case the generator, and this is the function. This is the call. It's a callback function. This is what I want to execute whenever this filter runs. So in here, I am returning nothing. For those who are new to programming, it just basically means, basically this filter, what it's saying is whenever the generator thing ignites, run this function called WP underscore version remove version. And this function, what it does is it returns an empty string. So we are modifying that thing that spits out this in order to generate something blank. So it's not going to display anything. So if I save that and reload the page, you will see that this on line 55 is now gone. Okay, so we just successfully removed that, and now the attacker doesn't know what version of WordPress is running. All he knows is that it's WordPress. Okay, so that's pretty good, and that's something we definitely don't want that person to know. Okay, as you can see over here, there's no way the nothing here says what version is running. So yeah, so you are making that stuff more and more secure. The only thing I would definitely take a look at is this, but that's going a little bit too far. All right, so let's go on to the next item, okay? The next item is going to be protecting my WP config file. This is a very cool feature that I grabbed when it came, when I was actually doing the homework for this webinar. Basically what it means is that, and let's go back. Let's go all the way up. Oh, let's go home. Wow. Yeah. Let's go home. Now let's go to my public HTML, which is where my website lives, the content folder where my WordPress installation is. So this file is the file where we modified the editor stuff, right? This is the file that has your database information. This is a really sensitive file. So a good thing that I saw, I was like, man, this is a really nice feature, is that you can actually move this a level up in your directory, and it's not going to be accessible on the home directory. Now, why is this a good feature? Because sometimes, not here because I'm using cPanel, but on FTP, let's say your information, your FTP credentials get compromised, and the FTP account that got compromised only has access from here on up, here on down. I mean, so they don't have this option of going up one level. So if they access that and they're here, and they don't see this file and it's up one directory, you are pretty much safeguarding. You are safeguarding the database. You are making sure that that person will not be able to get into the database, because this is the only file that leads towards your database information. Okay, so what I do is you move that file up one directory. You just put it like that. You go over here, you move it, it's going to disappear, and now you reload and pray that it works. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to work. So WordPress will automatically go up one directory and look for it. So again, this is a cool hack or a feature that you can do to safeguard your WP config file so that people can't view it within the root directory should your FTP credentials get compromised. It's a good thing. Some people will argue against it and say, listen, if I'm an administrator and that got compromised, I have access to all of this, which is true. But again, you don't know the scenarios. You might give an FTP account to just the root directory and nothing else. So this, again, goes back to the principle when we discussed about users: give your users the least amount of privilege. So if you have an FTP user, do you really need to give that user access to all of these directories that we have over here? Like, for example, all of this, like all of this. Does that person need that access or not? And as you can tell, the config file should be over here. So does that person need access to that files? Yes or no? So if the answer is no, you don't need to give them that permission. Okay, so you don't need to use it. And that's also one more thing that you can do. HT access, we kind of saw that in the previous moment of that. And you know, that's another way to protect it. Second thing I want to discuss is database salts. Database salts they improve the security of cookies between your browser and server. I don't want to get into details about this, but basically, it's another step that you can take to improve your security of your website, to add salts to your database. Not the actual salt, but it's a few tokens, it's a few things that you can do. And like I said here, it improves the security between cookies between your browser and server. So I only included this if you get hacked or you feel that your site has been compromised. You need to change your keys, your database keys. If you go to this URL over here, WordPress will generate these keys for you. If you see that, if you look at it, every time I refresh, new keys are added. So where do I add these keys? That's a really good question. The keys are added in that special WP config file that WordPress uses, which is this file over here. It's the file that I moved up. It's the file. This is one of the most, wait, I don't want to move it. It's one of the most sensitive files out there that WordPress has. So you got to take good care of that, okay? So the salts are all the way by default, and this is also another nice thing that we have in GreenGeeks. We include salts for you. So what I'm highlighting here is exactly the same as this over here, right? But I've seen it on some hosting providers where they don't add the salts for you. They don't do anything about it. So that's an extra layer of security that you can do just by adding these salts. So you go to this website and you just copy that and you paste that over here and you just save the file. And before you knew it, you have generated salts for your database, and that locks your site up even more. And again, if you feel that you may have been compromised, like your database has been compromised, make sure you add some salt to your database. Yeah, that takes care of that. That's a quick and good way to do so. Okay, we're going to close it because I don't want to do that. And okay. Now we are going to go back into plugins. Okay, we are a little bit late, so I hope I don't I'm talking too fast. So again, takeaway is functionality versus security. Don't forget the things that I discussed. So this slide is repetitive. I don't know what's there. So the first plugin that I recommend, I recommend, it's iThemes. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't work for iThemes, so but I usually do use it because I kind of enjoy it. So I already had it activated. So, but you can go over here, you can go add new, and you can just put iThemes over here, and it's going to tell me that I already have it, and I just need to activate it. Okay, so it's a really, really cool plugin. I like it because it has a lot of options to, you know, to lock my site up. Okay, so I'm going to do a security check. It's going to scan it, and it's going to give me what do I need to work on. Okay, and here I haven't redirected all my HTTP resources to HTTPS, which means I haven't run that thing over there. And the rest is it's just asking me to confirm my email addresses if I want to activate brute force protection, which is we'll get there in a bit, but it's just basically a attack that I might suffer on my site. Okay, global settings. I am allowing iTheme security to write on my WP config file. If we go back over here, it's gonna, let's reload this over there. It just wrote, right? It's 118 and my clock reads 118. So iThemes wrote on my thing over here on my file. This is the very important file that I said that you should safeguard. So I'm basically saying, okay, iThemes, I allow you to write on it, okay? And these are the messages if you want to lock people out. Now you can lock people out with iThemes, which is part of the reason why I like it. It's going to give you the options about threshold, how many days, how many minutes, stuff like that, okay? And if I authorize a specific host, okay? You can save that and you can go on your way to securing your website. Over here, this is notifications, so I'm going to skip that. User groups, this is, yeah, you can actually contribute. You can edit the group and you can select, no, I don't know this option, honestly. Let's dismiss it. Okay, 404 detection. Okay, this is a very cool feature. I'm going to enable it. Basically, what it means is when people are doing malicious stuff, they're trying randomly to access pages on your website because they don't know what you have there, right? So they're going to go and they're going to get a 404 error. 404 error means basically that the page doesn't exist. The resource doesn't exist. This is like a server code that the server gives back saying, hey, this page doesn't exist. My code is 404. So when people are doing bad stuff, when they're using like bots and they're using like spies, when the bad guys are out there, they don't know what's out there. So they are like randomly trying to access your website, like going crazy and going like, ah. So the plugin will detect if that person, if that person is going crazy with it. So it's going to lock them out because a normal human being, they're going to surf the web, right? They're going to follow links. They're going to click on stuff. They're going to interact with the page. So the 404s that they encounter, the frequency is going to be significantly lower than a bot might. So in here, you configure that and you just, lock them out and you configure the threshold and you just pretty much do that from here. I would definitely recommend that because that lowers the amount of bad guys out there, okay? This, in case you want to have an away mode, ban users, if you want to use a database, it's I've never seen it, so I don't know. If you want to ban people, if you want to ban hosts, if you are having problems with someone like spamming comments or doing bad stuff out there, you can actually ban either the user agents or their hosts, and you can just set it and forget it, and they're not going to give you any trouble. Okay, database backups. Okay, this offers the opportunity for you to do that. Yeah, that's cool. They do that. They can email it to you again. I don't know. I mean, save locally only defeats the purpose that I said about backing that up. On your website. So I would definitely prefer to have a backup solution that's going to be offsite. Okay. So this is the same thing. It's just, it only allows me to do it either locally or via email. This over here, the text files detection. This is a really important thing to run sometimes so that you can take a look about who has been changing your files, because we're going back into that issue about somebody sneaking in and putting malicious stuff that you don't know. So if you look at something, it's like, man, who wrote this? Who did this? So that way you can actually get a grasp as to what's going on. Okay, let's save this over here and let's do that. Okay, file permissions. File permissions is really important because it's going to give me quick scan about my WordPress installation. It's going to tell me what the numbers are. Now, these numbers, they have a meaning. Basically, they mean that what my permissions are. Okay, for directories, I think, hold on. For directories, hold on. For directories, it should be 755 or 750. Like this number over here should never be 777. And we're going to take a look at that in a bit. And for files, it's recommending me to change this to 444. So it's giving me a warning. Okay. So we're going to modify that. I think this plugin allows you to fix that out of the box. If so, great. If not, if it doesn't allow you, you need to go here to your cPanel account manager over here and go to your WP config file and right click and you change the permissions. So as you can see, we have this number over here, which is the same number that we have over here, right? It's 644. So basically a 644, what it means is that I can write to this file, I can read it, but I can't execute it. Execute means that I can actually remote execute that file through other protocols like curl or something like that. This is a little geeky stuff, but you definitely don't want this because this is exposing the file for it to be executed on a user basis, on a group, and on the whole wide world. So you definitely don't want to do that. So we're going to go back here. We're going to go back here and we're going to set this to 444. All right. So here we go. And now if we scan this, I'm going to close this and file permissions. Hey, reload file permissions. Let's see if we did our job accurately. Yeah, we did. Here we go. Now it's telling us that it's okay. And all I have to do is my htaccess file. So again, think of these numbers as permissions. 7 means writing, I think. Let's go back. Yeah, 7 means writing. No, executing, I'm sorry. 7 means executing and 6 means writing. So basically you have to match those numbers to those permissions in order to lock that stuff out. But like I said, some plugins allow you to do that. And if so, well, great. You know, the plugin will give you a bird's eye view as to what's allowed. I see a lot of questions, which is good. So local brute force protection. Again, this is the plug. I never tested this plugin. I never suffered a brute force attack. But like I said, a brute force attack is when people are sending a lot of requests your way and that your server can't handle it. Like this is a combined host and site issue, okay? So sometimes it happens, people want to knock your site down and yeah, it's bad stuff, I know, but that's what happens. So again, you tweak with these options here and I can't guarantee you that how it's going to behave because I never had a brute force attack. Those are kind of the things that you kind of need to know before they happen. Password requirements, you can do that over here if you want. Again, I prefer not to tweak this and just do it on a conscience level and do it myself. The SSL, I am going to leave off because I already have a plugin that does that, and I don't like it when 2 plugins conflict with each other to do the same job. That could potentially cause problems, and I prefer not to. So I leave this as disabled. If you don't have that plugin installed, well, you can enable it here and see how it goes. Okay, configure system tweaks, protect system files. I mean, this is something that you definitely, oh, this is what I said about, you know, about safeguarding, like disable directory browsing, like tidying it up so the fact that people can't snoop into your stuff and see what goes on there. This plugin does that for you, which I think it's a very cool feature to have, okay? This is also a subject, a setting that I like, suspicious query strings. If you take a look at it, all pages have these, well, not all, but like WordPress pages have this question mark, then they have this, equal that. So those are called query strings. And whenever you send that to the server is going to interpret that and it's going to give you something back based on that string. That is good because the server knows that, but you can also send some bad stuff over that. And if you don't have your things properly configured, the server might respond to you with stuff that you don't want other people to look. So, you know, make sure that's definitely there. All right. And the last, the salts, again, You can do that over here if you want to change it, but I usually prefer to do it manually and change the salts myself. Okay, and WordPress streaks. I don't even know what this is, honestly. Reduce comment spam. I leave this unchecked because I use another spam file editor for plugins and themes. Yeah. Okay. This, yeah, this is disabled. I definitely recommend this. This is it's a protocol, the XML RPC protocol. It's for mobile devices. I don't know why WordPress has it enabled now. It used to enable, it had it enabled, then it disabled it, and now it's enabled again. So this one, I definitely recommend disabling it. Okay, disable the XML RPC protocol. And that's, yeah, you tweak around with this, and yeah, it's really cool. The other thing that this plugin has, which is the pro version, it has a malware scanning. It can scan your website and say, listen, you have this and this problem. It has a reCAPTCHA and the two-factor authentication. Some plugins handle that. We're going to discuss that in a bit. And the last part that I would love about this plugin is the advanced feature over here, and change the content directory, the admin user. Where is it? Oh, well, here you can change your admin user to from one. Again, this is something that you got to assess, especially if you have an already established website. By default, when you create a WordPress site, well, the first user is you. You are the admin. So everybody knows that the user ID of admin is 1. So this plugin can change that for you. So it's going to change that on a database level, and it's changing your user ID to something else. This is just in case, like, you can't use that as part of the query string over here, or do any malicious stuff knowing that the user ID is 1. And I say this because from a database perspective, people know where the users are stored, and they're going to know what the ID of that first person is going to be. So that's more or less what this setting is all about. Okay, change hide backend. This is the one I actually love. The enable backend feature, and this, what it does is, as you can see over here, let's go back. If I open my browser over here and log in, so whenever I go to WP admin, this one over here, from everybody knows on the WordPress perspective that this is what gets me to my admin login screen. So if a hacker knows what your WordPress installation is, it's a WordPress site, they're going to know how to access, the login prompt. So this setting over here, it's going to change it to something that only you know. So again, you're adding an extra step of you're adding a new roadblock. So the person is not going to know where this URL is going to be, and this way you are kind of locking that stuff out. Okay, so that this is supposed to be private. So this is one of the reasons why I love this plugin, because you can actually change that on the fly. Okay, and the database prefix, this is important. Yes, you can do that. It's recommending that you back up that stuff for you. The prefix, the database prefix, without going into many details and opening, let's opening our WP config file. If we scroll the way down here, we're defining this variable as WPYS. WordPress by default does this, WP underscore. That's what WordPress does. And on some hosting environments, they follow along with that standard thing. But from an attacker's perspective, they know already that your table prefixes are going to be with the WP underscore nomenclature, I think is the word. So they're going to know what your table structure is, like your database structure. WordPress uses a database to give you the content and stuff. So they are going to know what your databases are going to be. So if you add this, they're not going to know, because it's 2 extra characters. They can't really guess that. So you're adding an extra layer of security over there. This is something that we at GreenGeeks, we implement this by default. We add, we modify the prefix when you install your WordPress installation in order to make it even more secure. So we do that out of the box. However, not all plugins, not all hosting companies do that. So you can do this over here and change the prefix to something that you want. I don't know if it's going to suggest. Yeah, it's going to do that for me. So it's going to take care of that, and it's giving me a warning because again, this you don't you don't know, they don't know, I don't know, nobody really knows what you have in there, and if there's a dependency on your database tables or something, something might break. So that's why I always recommend that you do this up front when you have little content available, or if it's a fresh and clean install, because this way you absolutely work your way up having done this. Okay, so yeah, it's like I would say the analogy, it's like do I want to add a steel plated door to my house without really knowing if my floor is going to support it? You know, I mean, you could try, but chances are it could go whoop, it could go down. So that's more or less what that means, that setting means. Okay, so make sure you handle that with care. Server config rules, it's just going over what I have, which I really don't like. This shouldn't be available, but okay. And the WP config rules. Here, they're disallowing the file edit. This is the stuff that I did previously. So, you know, it's taken care of by the plugin. And this, I don't know what it does. Adds automatic IDP. Okay, no, this definitely no. Okay, so that takes care of this plugin. Also, another cool thing that it has, you can view logs over here. And in this case, oh, it's telling me I changed this. So again, that's really cool, because if somebody attacked me and it changed the file, so I can go view details over here. This is something I did manually, right? I went over here, and if you guys remembered, I changed the permissions and did this. So the logs are telling me that I modified something. See, it's giving me a warning, and it's giving me, it's telling me what has been changed. Okay, as you can see, a lot of things have been changed just today, and this is why this stuff is important, because you go over here and like, man, I didn't change that much. So always, you know, to keep an eye on that, make sure that everything's okay and that everything checks out. Okay. What is this? I don't know what this filter is. All right, so that takes care of that this plugin. And again, tweak with it, make sure you like it, and have fun. Okay, so the next plugin we are going to work with is called Sukuri. It does some other stuff that iThemes doesn't, and I'm going to give you, I'm going to list to you what it does. So we're going to go over plugins over here, and we're going to go all the way down, and we're going to activate this little fellow over here, and it's going to tell you, boom, boom, ready. So we'll have this option over here, security. So what do I like about that? First of all, I like its logs. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this because it's telling me I activated a plugin, deactivated, I did this. Somebody tried to enter as me. So you're like, okay, who is this guy? And in this case, it was me, because it's my IP address. So you can check this stuff out on a day-by-day basis. Again, these are cool features to have, so you can know what's going on. Okay, so you can keep your site secure. So I absolutely love these logs. And another thing that it has, which is not free, is the firewall. So firewall is basically, there are two types of firewalls, okay? So let's say a physical firewall is a firewall that will scan your traffic before it reaches your server. So let's say Joshi over here is my server, and this is my firewall, and I go and I hit the firewall will inspect and say, okay, this guy's legit. He goes out of the way, and I go to Joshi, right? And I can do with Joshi all the stuff, the server stuff that I need to do. That's called a server firewall, actual physical firewall. But there's also other types of firewalls, which are application firewall, web application firewall. So basically, there is no device, and the traffic goes straight to Joshi, but the application firewall, Joshi has this special power where he can actually, inspect the traffic and say, or okay. So that's basically what this firewall does, okay? I was gonna get an API key, but the problem with that is you have to pay. So this is where the security makes its money. I mean, this is a really cool feature because it scans that website and they already have all the rules in place to make sure if somebody's bad or not, and you can have control over that. I haven't paid for that because, quite frankly, yeah, I don't. But if you are serious about it, like if you want to activate your security stuff, if you want to tighten things up and pay for it and let a part company handle that for you, well, you can just install a firewall and they will take care of that, you know. But yeah, that's more or less what I wanted to say about security. I mean, you may be interested in it, you may not. I'm just mentioning it and putting it out there in the event that you definitely want to do it. I absolutely love these logs because it's just a safety check that should I get compromised or should I be into trouble, I could actually backtrack and see what's going on. Okay, so it's a cool feature to have. And I think under settings, what else do we have that I wanted to say? Yeah, the API key, I don't have it. They also scan that stuff for you. Again, yeah, it's stuff that you kind of need an API key for. So I don't want to touch much about security because part of their solution has to do with the firewall. Okay, so that was really fast. I'm sorry. So the second, last plugin I want to discuss is called WordFence. It's one more to go. So WordFence wasn't available yesterday. They are global sponsors. We usually see them at booths at different WordCamps that we go. And the plugin over here, I have it already. So I scroll all the way down and I should have it over here. I'm going to activate it. So WordFence has two things going for it. First of all, it also has a firewall, which I think it's not free. It's not free, but actually, no, it is free. It is free, but it's like a limited edition of it. So in here, you can manage your firewall and it will do that stuff for you. But I'm not really certain as to what options the free versus the paid one offers you, but it does have a firewall, okay? And the other thing that it has going, which I absolutely love, is, let me go over here. It has this thing. Hold on. I think it's logging security. It has a two-factor authentication. This is something I really, really enjoy because two-factor authentication basically means, as the name implies, when I go over here, it's gonna give me another extra piece of information that I'm going to need in order to log in. I don't know if you guys used it. On your mobile phones, you can go over here and you have this authenticator app, which I'm showing to you. And what it does is that it's going to give you generate codes every so often. And when you log in, you need both your, of course, username, password, and you're going to need this code that it's supposed to be on very few devices. So now you're making it even harder for people to get into. So a two-factor authentication, especially if you are very serious about security, if you want to definitely make sure that everything's tidying up. I mean, I recommend having a two factors authentication. I mean, we use it at banks, you use it at certain applications. So, I mean, why not, So this is one of the things that WordFence has going for it. I absolutely love that. And it also has a scan feature, which I haven't really used it, to be honest with you. Oh, yeah, yeah. I haven't really scanned it. Okay, and one thing I saw, which I liked, wait. Yeah. And this is me, by the way. Yeah, I am human. Thank you. So, it's telling who's trying to get in and who's trying to do what. So you can block it on the fly. And again, if I'm going to go into these plugins like on a deep by deep basis, it's going to be a lot of information to process. But I'm just throwing like a few plugins out there so that you can take a look at. And yeah, I am human. Thank you. This is all me. So if I saw something that isn't me, yeah, definitely would freak out and don't commit this and be stuck out of it. Okay, and what else? So I think that's no, there's one more thing, as Steve Jobs would say. So you're hacked or locked out. What should you do? First of all, are you locked out or are you hacked? Let's discuss the worst case scenario. You are hacked. So you are hacked. Listen, you got to get over the impact that it causes. You got to get up and you got to keep going. It has happened to all of us in some degree. It's painful. You don't know what happened, but the first thing I would say is, again, going back to my slides, or my only thing that I definitely, guys, want you to do is backup. Make sure you have a backup of what happened. And then you need to get into CSI mode and start knowing or inferring what might have gone wrong. How was I hacked? Was it my database that got compromised? Is it a plugin? Is it my theme? I mean, try to isolate the issue on something where nobody's going to interact with it, so that you can get to the bottom of it and make sure to know what the culprit of it was. You know, when you do, you're going to mitigate for sure. And obviously, you know, like I said, the whole balance about functionality versus security. If you have all these measures that or some of them, it's going to be harder for people to hack into your stuff. So that's more or less my recommendation, you know, to follow some of them, to have some of them running, and make sure you follow up with it in order to make sure that your site is secure. And if you're locked out, if you forgot, like let's say your two-factor stuff and whatnot, yeah, there's other ways to get in. I don't know how versed you're going to be, but one quick way, if you lost your password, for example, and you don't know the email address, or you don't have access to the email address anymore, you can always go to your cPanel installation and go to PHP My Admin, which is like a sneaky way to get into your database. Okay, so you know, you go over here, and it's going to open up this console over here. These are all the databases that I have for my particular cPanel installation. So if you expand this little fellow over here, it's going to give you all the tables that I set. Don't get intimidated. It's a lot of them. But I know for a fact that this is the table that I'm using for my WordPress installation because of the prefix. That's the thing that, remember I said that we do by default at GreenGeeks. So usually it's just WP underscore and then comment meta. That's why it's dangerous, because attackers are going to know this. So WordPress comes with this table. It's called the users. So when you click on it, it's going to give you a list of all the users. So in the event that you are locked out and you don't have access to that email anymore, you can just go in here and quickly edit that email to something you like. And then you go to the password retrieval process in order to get your email back. You can either double click like this. I don't even know how to do it. Yeah, you double click like that, or you can just go and edit over here and just change your email address like that. Now, I don't recommend changing this password, because this is not really my password that I had. This is a hashed password. This is remember the whole encryption salt thing. So this is like an encrypted version of my password. So if I change this to hello, it's not going to work. So unless you know your SQL stuff and you can actually run a command, then I would definitely not recommend doing that. And here's the ID value that I said about, your user ID. The user ID is 1, because that's, it's really a WordPress. It's not a flaw, but I mean, you can debate on it. I mean, what are the options? We'll discuss that in the community stuff that we do at different WordCamps. And I think that's truly it. Yes, and I would like to thank everybody. As usual, we're going to have more webinars on the pipeline. This is our Twitter account. Go at GreenGeeks. Follow us for more information. And I have like a gazillion questions, so I think it's going to be good. I'm excited about that. I usually like it when people ask questions. So let me stop the sharing. Or wait, how can I go back to where my coworkers are? Where are they? Well, I'm going to stop sharing. And hopefully, yeah, they're here. Hello. Good to see some humans.
Okay, Marco, can we read the Q&A and answer?
Yeah, do you want me to read them, or?
Well, read the question and answer the question. So
okay, I have a technical difficulty because of my resolution. I can't see the questions. Hold on, let me see. Let me fix that, see if I can fix it myself. Okay. First of all, question Maria Margaritis. Is Dropbox considered offsite for backup? Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, absolutely yes, because Dropbox is really like a storage space that you have somewhere else. And despite the fact that it's synchronized on your devices, it really goes to a server that's off location. So yeah, it's offsite. Is Updraft, Maria Margaritis asks, is Updraft Plus enough for one website? I use this free version with Drop. I think it is. Absolutely. I use it as well. I think the free version does. Usually with client work that I do, their files are not that big. And when we're getting there, closely, dangerously getting there, I usually notify clients as well. Okay. Charlie Kimsey asked, is Microsoft Azure okay to use as well? Yes. However, I got to tell you, I've never gotten into that Azure configuration stuff. I've worked with S3 with Amazon. It was great when I used it, but you know, I haven't had much use to it lately because of, like I said, I have Microsoft OneDrive. I just use that. You know, it's just a good way to have it. And with clients, like I said, I have a relationship with them, so I have those backups there. Yeah, I will be in big trouble if I get my office stuff hacked, but it's pretty secure. Don't worry. Okay. What is the FTP backup option updraft? Does that go to? No, you need to, Phil asked that. No, Phil, you need to configure that. You need to configure your FTP server. You're going to have to configure your FTP hostname alongside your FTP credentials, your username and password. So if you want to maintain the whole GreenGeeks thing, like you want to keep you working with GreenGeeks, but you don't want it to be in the same basket, well, we do offer we have different data centers in different parts of the world, right? So you can have an account, for example, in Chicago, which is where one of our data centers are located, and you can have another one in Phoenix, Arizona, or you can have one in Amsterdam, which is another location, and you just have those two hosting accounts there, and you just used one of them for your offsite location. That would be a good way. Actually, you know what? That would be a really good way. And I don't want to toot our horn even more, but I mean, we offer basic plans that are like $3, and it's unlimited storage and it's unlimited bandwidth. So, you know, for $3, if you need something heavy and you need to have it offsite, yeah, do it with FTP. I don't see why not. I mean, it's $3 and it's unlimited. So yeah, go for it. Ethan Cricklow, sometimes the plugin updates conflict with the functionality of other so should I still update wait, sometimes the Ethan Cricklow, I'm sorry. Sometimes the plugin updates conflict with the functionality of other plugins and could affect website function. So should I update or still or incrementally? This goes back to the thing I said about different configurations for different people. For example, when the version 5.5 came out, a lot of my friends, my WordPress friends, they were having a lot of headaches because all their sites broke. And I was like, that's what you get for not following the API. But, you know, it really, really depends. And I would definitely suggest having a hosting, some environment where you have some control as to how it's going to behave before you move into production. That's more or less how my workflow is. I work locally, make sure everything is working fine locally, and then I upload everything into production, everything that I know is supposed to work. I mean, and if it doesn't, I'll just roll back and start figuring the issue out on my own. Marinella Miclea asks, I'm a customer and use Updraft for backup to Dropbox. It usually works well, but it's annoying that it sometimes has an issue with the light speed web server used by GreenGeeks. How can we resolve? I will have to get back to you on that one because I've never had an issue with it. So is there a way I can reach to you? whatchamacallit, outside of here, like you can send me your email like privately and to us, to any of us, and I'll follow up with it because that's something I've never ever, something I haven't encountered. Okay, I hope you're doing. Ethan asked how to set up a local environment. That's a good question, and you're cordially invited to my next week's webinar where we're going to discuss Git, and I am going to set up WordPress locally. We're going to go locally, strictly locally, and then we're going to move our files and we're going to go into production mode. So yeah, follow that one, please. The more the merrier. Phil Ward asks, if your PHP version breaks your site, can you go back to an early version and solve the problem? Same with plugin backups. Can you go back to an early version or saved early version? With PHP, yes, because you can roll back to an older version with PHP so long your hosting environment allows you to do that. Like for example, we do. With plugins, that's going to be harder, you know, and I'll tell you why, because they are within the repository of WordPress, right? So when you hit the update button, you're getting the latest version. So let's say I'm in your pickle and I need to solve that, okay? And I'm like, whoa, how do I solve this? So there's two ways. First would be to look for the outdated version on the developer's site. And let me share my screen really quick. Let me share my screen again really quick. So let's change it back. Let me share my screen because I prefer if you can see what I'm doing. No, and yes. And now we go back to screen sharing. Sorry, it's just that I needed to. Okay, so let me go back to my screen. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. If we go to plugins over here, and for example, let's say we had a problem with the all-in-one SEO pack, right? If we click on view details, we're going to know who the author is. Like it has this plugin homepage over here. So sometimes they'll have a repository of links that I can actually like older versions. If not, you're going to have to Google like older versions all-in-one SEO plugin and see if you can find your way, because yeah, change logs, they have the change logs and they have this, and that way you would have to go back to, yeah, for example, these guys, they don't all-in-one, they just give you the change log. This is just, you know, what the new features did. And in this guy, let's see. Oh, see, this guy has it. So this guy has it. So you're gonna have to Google, get creative, or, and this is or, I'm saying a big or because I'm not sure, but I am going to write that down because I am very enthusiastic about it. WordPress has a feature called the command line, and you could possibly specify the version that you want to install, because if you have the changelog over here, let me go over here. If you have the changelog over here, you have 3.7.0. I could maybe install that version through the command line. So I could just overwrite, delete the plugin, of course, and then install the plugin, but using the version as a parameter. Like let's say install plugin all-in-one SEO, and then put a flag of this version. So I'm going to try that out because I'm really curious about it. And those are the two options I can think of right now. All right, now I'm back to me. How do I protect my work and my customers with the Learn Dash plugin? Do I need to pay for an external? First of all, I am sorry about my ignorance, but what is Learn Dash? Is that, oh, is that like the school? I've heard about it. Wait, what is Learn Dash? Learn Dash. I'm sorry. Is that the, what is Learn Dash? I'm sorry, I don't know what Learn Dash is. Sorry. Sorry, I can't answer that question. I don't know what Learn Dash is. I think it's like a, if you can ask tell me what Learn Dash is, I'll look into it. But yeah, I don't know what Learn Dash is. And let's go over here. And yeah. Okay. So next one would be, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. Would paid version of SSL be necessary for a small business e-commerce site? No, I think no. No. You don't need that. Usually the free ones will do the job. It's just that, like, if you're Amazon or something, that's a good problem to have. You would definitely need a custom SSL solution for you or a paid version. Yeah. Phil Ward says, here's an advanced user plugin that I have used very effectively. Okay, cool. That's really cool. User role editor. It's this plugin over here. Wait, what's wrong with my website? I don't know. Why is this not working? Well, I don't know. Something might happen to my computer. Oh, I know. I think I know what it is. Let's use this. So Phil is suggesting this plugin, which is, yeah, I usually, yeah, there's plugins that do that for you, and they can nitty gritty the details out as to what you need, and that's cool. John Douglas Hall, can you recommend any WordPress teach yourself manuals that can be purchased that follow your discussion here? Yes, I can. I would say Udemy by far. It's the one I like the most, Udemy.com. They have a lot of courses when it comes to PHP, WordPress, databases, and they're really, really cheap. They go sometimes on sale and they cost like $10. And sometimes I'm amazed at what you can learn for just $10. Of course, you have to give in the time and you have to put in the work, but to know that stuff for $10, I'm like, wow, it's absolutely amazing. Want that filter to stop versioning posting, commenting. Want that filter to stop versioning posting. Okay, to that filter, I'll supply it to you. It's, I think it's in my notes here. I use notes, people. It's this one. No, it's not this one. Remove that. This one. I am going to paste that. It's this one. So you can paste that into your functions.php file, and it's going to do the job for you. And wow, I forgot the question. You had one more question. Want that filter to stop? Comment on Loginizer, WordPress and security. What problem can you get moving config? No, absolutely no problem. WordPress is going to look a directory up, and it's going to say, oh, it's here. So by default, it looks one directory up if it can't find it within the home directory. Just make sure if you want to move it one or more up, you're going to have to do some changes there to make sure that WordPress can find it. It can find it, but you're going to have to specify it. By moving it up one, it's not going to do any. It's not going to run into any problems. Bob Fox, shouldn't we make copies of the file before we edit it? Bob Fox, you're absolutely correct. You should. You should, especially. But I also think that's also part of the reasons why the 10,000 hours of flying does to you. Sometimes you kind of lose the fear of editing that file. But if you are unsure about what you want to do and you want to play it on the safe side, you should absolutely do that. What do you think about all-in-one WP security and firewall plugin? I've never used that, to be honest with you, Ethan. I'm going to write it down, and what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look, and if we run this webinar again, I might include it. So yeah, cool catch. Thank you. Bob Fox is, can you move htaccess up one level without hurting site? No, because this is something I forgot to mention. Every directory should have its own every directory in theory can have its own htaccess file. So it's going to look for that within the directory that's executing on. And if it doesn't, it's going to go all the way back to the root directory. So no. Bob Fox, after doing 444, can an admin still edit the file? Yes, yes, they can. Yes, they can, because the 445 file permission, let me go back. The 445 permission is that where, yeah, that I can write so long that's a good question. You know what? Let's give it a try. I love this. When I get these questions, let me see. Let's do disallow file edit true. Let's remove this. Or wait, define. Let me use a constant that I like, debug. I use this constant a lot. Def htdocs. So let's use this one over here. This one, I forgot the name of the constant. See, this is this one. Yeah, what's debug? So let's do that. Here we go. And let's change it. Yeah, you can. So don't worry about it. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, let's do one more thing. Transmit. And I am going to use FTP to access my GreenGeeks, testing account that I have. Disregard that. And am I sharing my screen? Yes, I am, right? Yeah, I am. Sorry. So I go over here and go to content. And then I go to, where am I? Oh, here it is. WP config. This is the same as trying to edit the file directly using cPanel, right? So in here, I'm using false. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to save it. And FTP is saying no. You see, that's a very good catch. So Bob Fox, I can do it so long I'm inside cPanel. But in here, I am saying the permissions denied. So I'm going to have to change those permissions again to do so. So I'm going to go over here and change permissions, and I need to write that. So that's a really good catch. Thank you. You learn something every day. Ethan asks, how to prevent website emails from going to spam? You mean WordPress emails, automated emails? You're going to have to make sure your spam, your email client adds, those emails containing the word WordPress or that domain it comes from to your whitelist, like authorized, like to never go through. It depends on the client, so I can't give you a straightforward answer. But the direction would be to allow things that contain the word WordPress or the domain that the email came from to be whitelisted and go straight into your inbox. Ethan asks, is there a website to download affordable and genuine premium plugins that are safe without malware? Yes, there is a huge community going here, and you can actually download themes as well. I mean, I'm just recommending this because, yeah, it's used a lot within the community. It's codecanyon.net. So discover thousands of codes, scripts, and plugins. So you can search for it. Let's say, I don't know, user plugin WordPress, and it's going to go over here and it's going to tell you what the plugins are. It's paid and it has reviews. It follows the same thing, but this is just within the Code Canyon community. So you won't be able to find this inside the code repository. So let me give you that URL so that you can check it out. And I'm sure there's other sites out there, but Code Canyon is like the most popular one out there. Wow, I saw your list of users. It had a column of 2AF was not enabled. How are you adding 2AF? You know what? I saw that as well. I wasn't really sure. Let me, because I was like, when I was going back through the webinar, I was like, am I going crazy or did I actually added that? So let me see. And let me disable this one.
Marco, we cannot see your screen, so in case you
that's why I asked. Yeah, I asked, like, can you see my screen? Oh man.
Sorry.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
trying to share, we're not seeing. Okay, thank you.
Yes. So let me go back a few questions where I actually needed a screen share. Okay, first of all, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Uh, okay, the question Bob said, can you move? No, after doing 444, can an admin still edit the file? The answer is yes or no. I am sharing screen now, am I? Yeah. So if you go over here and you modify this and you edit it, and let's say you go back and you put this as, you remove it, if you save it, it's going to tell me yes. So I can do that on a cPanel basis. But if I go here using FTP, and let me refresh, I connected using FTP. So if I go over here and edit this with my editor of choice, and I go all the way down and I add this back up, it's going to deny it. It's going to tell me no. What happened here? Oh, did I change the permissions again? Hold on. Where am I? Oh, here. Permissions. Yeah, no, it's fine. So that shouldn't have allowed it. Wait. I'm sorry. Wait, am I at the right file? Let me do that again. So if I open this here and I edit, I'm at the config file, am I? Yes. So if I go here and define this constant again, oh no, it does. It does, I think. So let me close that. That's weird. No, yeah, you can. If you, yeah, you can. No, you can. You definitely can. Okay. So even though it's 444, yeah, you can. Ethan, how to prevent? I didn't need a screen saving for that. Is there a website to download affordable and genuine premium plugins? And like I said, Code Canyon. It's this site over here. It's this site, this one. So like, for example, I typed in use your plugin WordPress and all these options came up. So you can pay for it. This is usually not in the repository, and you can download plugins, themes. It's a lot of things. It's by Envato. Envato is like a huge company out there. And yeah, you can download pretty much anything you can think of. Okay. So I'm sorry about the screen stuff. So Elizabeth asked that. That was a really good question. And I was disabling my plugins because I wanted to, because I saw that as well. I was like, well, what's going on here? So I'm going to deactivate this. And let me go back to users. Yeah, it's not there. So I think that I saw that as well. I caught it and I was like, what's going on here? Why is this appearing if was not enabled? But it turns out I did have the plugins enabled. I just didn't know when I was doing it. But since I was going so quickly, I was like, what's going on here? But no, it was definitely disabled. Okay to have several plugins like security, Loganizer, iThemes, and WordFence? I would say yes, so long they don't conflict with each other as to the job that they do. So make sure that if you set the job on one, you don't set the same job on the other. Otherwise, it's going to conflict. They're gonna clash, and you don't know what the behavior is going to be. Bob Fox, can you tell who changed the file? Yes, with that plugin that I showed you, the security one was, yeah, right? You could actually see who changed the file. If your site is compromised or broken, how would you get to security to see the log? That's a really good question. Well, if you're compromised, well, you may be able to get in, right? I mean, you need to get in. You need to get in. So once you are in, you can actually check as to who did that. If not, if you can't get in, well, that's a good question. That is a really good question. So I don't know if we as a hosting company could help you accessing those files, accessing a log file or something like that, so that you can take a look and read that. So I owe you the answer to that one. Sorry. Bob Fox says, what security features will slow your site down the most? That's a good question as well. I would say perhaps, yeah, what security features will slow your site down the most? That is a very good question, which I don't have the answer. I'm sorry. Sorry, Bob. I would say perhaps the firewall, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry. And Elizabeth Reiher said, I think Ethan was asking Bob Fox. Thank you. You're welcome, Bob. I think Ethan was asking about enabling auto updates when he's worried about plugging. Okay, let me go back to your question. Where's your question? Oh, up here. I think, yeah. I think you should play it on the safe side and not have it enabled then. Yes, I think you should, if you are worried about conflicts when you have auto updates, I think you should just disable it altogether. And this is a feature I usually do also when it comes to my phone. I use an iPhone, and people are always so quick to get their newest release when it comes to iOS, but I usually wait like maybe 1 or 2 versions of the same version, of course, because that's when they that's when they fix all the major bugs that the version is producing. So it's the same with plugins, if you think about it. So nobody wants their plugin not to work. So whenever a new WordPress release comes out, and if there's a conflict with it, you could just wait out, sit tight a little bit until you are absolutely sure that you know, the issue has been addressed and everything's okay. So then you go and update, but you're going to have to do it manually. Yes. Also, what do you think about the millions of websites being hacked with the file manager plugin? I read about that the other day. You know, what do I think about it? I read about it the other day because we were having an issue at work, and they were asking me about a site that was broken. I wasn't the developer on that site, and I said, listen, I don't know what it is. And it turns out that it was the file manager plugin. It's injecting some malicious code, and that code was getting scattered to the visitors. And I was like, man, that's really, really, really bad. But I also saw when we came in that the developer who was working on that site, he hadn't updated anything like in ages. So I was like, okay, so, you know, like I said, you got to update. If you're the developer, you got to make sure that everything works as expected. And I think it's an oversight of both the company and the developer who was on that case. I hope he's not tuning into this webinar. And Phil Ward, do you think File Manager would be updated to get bad code out there? So you really need to update or go back to your early version. Correct. And Luis Roberto Cotto asks, where are you? It says 4:47 a.m. Wow. It says, hi, thanks a lot for this webinar. I have a question, security. Can I install? Yeah, you can install both. You can absolutely both. So long they don't compete about what the functionality is going to be, I think it shouldn't be a problem. And with that, do we have more questions?
Any more questions, guys? Have anybody?
Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry about the stream. Yeah, Linda's also a good place, as Erica points out. I'm just reading the chat. And the Git one, well, I'm glad you're excited because I'm really excited about the Git one as well. So I hope you all sincerely enjoyed it, and thank you very much. Let me go to see some humans. Yeah, here they are. So it's just that I can't see Anna or Erica, so I freak out sometimes. So yeah, thank you, everybody. I had a great time.
Okay, so hopefully we see you next week at the Git, the advanced seminar webinar. Right? Hopefully all of you will be there. Marco will be there for sure.
Yeah, he has to. No.
Okay.
So I'm excited. All right.
Oh, there's another question. No, thank you. Barbie saying thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Hope I spoke slowly this time.
we will see you next week and hopefully next Saturday, and you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for attending and staying to the end as always.
Thank you, Marco,
everyone.
and thank
Bye-bye.
you, Anna,
Ciao.
too.
Thank you, Marco.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day, gals. Have a good day, everybody. Cheers. Be well and be safe.
Yes, be safe. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.